Thank you for tuning in to the Victory is Greater Than the Struggle, an ex-lesbian podcast with myself, your host, Jessica Newsom. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit along the lines of searching out our own gods, trying to fulfill basically the voids that we have on the inside of us by going everywhere else except for God. So in my Devo time, I'm in the book of Psalms, and right now I'm on Psalm 16, and which one is it? Oh, verse 4 really stood out to me, okay? It says this, Psalm 16, verse 4, troubles multiply for those who chase after other gods. That's the first part of that verse, but that's what I want to kind of just harp on today. And I love that verse because I see how not just in my own life before, I just gave my life to God and really started to search after him and seek his face and to really understand what it meant to be a follower of God, all that stuff. Like I was chasing these other gods. I was chasing these other things to try to fulfill voids that only God can fulfill, right? And so I have the pleasure of speaking with other people who maybe email me and say, hey, Jessica, I'm struggling in this area. Please pray for me, or, whatever the case is. And I always say, hey, yeah, I'll pray for you, but do you want to talk? I think that it's one thing to say, yeah, I'll pray for you, but it's a whole nother to say, yo, let's just do a little FaceTime chat and let's see what's going on. I think that just goes, it's just so much better. And so what I see in a lot of people's lives and in my life at times, and definitely in my past, is we try to fill voids by searching for other gods that is not the God of the Bible. Meaning, sometimes we're searching, we're chasing after money. Sometimes we're chasing after relationships, right? And one of the biggest things that I see as far as a stronghold that keeps people bound, whether it's homosexuality or any type of sin that you're involved in, right? The main, how do I want to phrase this? Let's just use homosexuality, okay? Oftentimes, I get people who really struggle with lust. This was an area in my life that was so prominent, okay? And I think that this area is foundation to the strongholds in our life, okay? And so I see in a lot of areas in people's life where this is like one of the main things. So we say, okay, God, I want to be free from homosexuality. I want to be free from same-sex attraction, right? Maybe it's pornography and masturbation, all this stuff, right? And a lot of times it's lust that is the driving force behind it. So what do we need to do? So often, I just had issues to where I would wake up in the middle of the night and struggle with lust, right? Maybe things were just maybe just sexual perversion or just lust in general was on my mind, whether it was with females or males, right? And so following God, there's a season when God's like, okay, I'm going to refine you. I'm going to put you through the fire, but I need you in a place to where it's just me and you. So there's this time of singleness. Okay. And I don't know about you guys, but I was always in a relationship or a sexual relationship when I was in the homosexual lifestyle. And you could be heterosexual and have the same type of background. Okay. And so learning how to be single, that enough was a struggle for me. Okay. And so when lust was a driving force, when I found out in my singleness that lust was a driving force and a catalyst for so many different strongholds and sin that I was entangled in, I had to really deal with that thing. But what I see so often in our lives is that we don't really want to let go sometimes of this lust, this God of lust, because it fulfills a void, even if it's temporary. That temporary void of maybe pleasure. Maybe you're thinking about, past relationships while you're gratifying in this sin nature, and it's filling a void of feeling comforted, right, by the familiar. But familiarity is that old nature. It's who you used to be, right? And it's pulling you back instead of you moving forward with Christ. So sometimes the God that we are seeking after and the God that we're chasing after is the same thing that will keep us stuck and stagnant in our lives. And so what do we have to do? I know that it's not always a one size fits all when it comes to how to get over this thing. And of course, yes, the Bible, most definitely. But I'm talking about the day-to-day, real-to-real application of how to get through. What I see oftentimes is like a pattern that keeps people stuck is not being consistent in doing what we need to do, whatever that thing is. Okay, maybe it's a lack of consistency in when you're struggling at night, get up and go spend time in worship. Half the time, I would just be like, I don't want to do that. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. So, I'm just going to go back to sleep. God's got me. But then that thing really grips me and takes a hold of me, and maybe we fall into sin, right? God gives us the tools, and he's like, I need for you to be consistent in the tools. But so often, consistency just evades us. We don't want to be consistent. We don't want to read our Bible consistently. We don't want to worship consistently, right? We've done it a couple times and it didn't work, so we're done. We're going to move on and try something else. But that's not how this works. God asks for us to be consistent in our walk with him. He's consistent in his love for us. We need to try to be consistent in our daily dying to self, in our consistency of when I'm struggling with this thing, I'm going to get up and worship God till I feel it break. Even though I'm tired, even though I have to get up in 4 hours and get ready for work, right? Even though it's difficult, even though it sucks and I don't want to do it, right? It's consistency. And when we're consistent, we will oftentimes, and not 10 times out of 10, I'll say oftentimes, we will see breakthrough. There's other times in people's lives to where God has a different path, and it involves more than consistency to break through the barriers of certain strongholds. Sometimes there's medicine that's involved. And man, I talk about medicine and people want to just freak out and they want to just get mad at me. I'm just going to say this one thing about medicine. Sometimes we are so crippled in our issue to where we need medicine to help us get mental clarity, to be able to be consistent in the things God is asking for us to do to break that stronghold. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I have more podcasts on mental health if you just check that out. But I love that verse because it says troubles multiply for those who chase after other gods. Troubles multiply. Sin multiplies. Strongholds get tighter. We go deeper down that rabbit hole. Things get more difficult. We get more blinded as we chase after other gods. Why is it getting so difficult? Maybe because we're chasing after other gods. So take a look in your own life and ask yourself, what gods are you chasing after? What temporary gratification are you using to fill the void that only God can fill in your life? What are those things? Is it money? Is it relationships? It could even be online relationships, just finding comfort in some person who's hundreds of miles away to fill a void because you're unhappy with yourself. You're unhappy with your situation. The void could be just totally ignoring God and not going to church, because the moment you walk into church, God's going to ask for you to give your life to him, to give something to him. He's going to confront you on something in a loving way, but we don't want to let go of that thing. So sometimes chasing after other gods is just going the opposite direction of where God wants us to go. So we chase after those things that make us feel good. We chase after those things that are that seem to be easy, but it's not easy at all. It's pretty heavy. It's pretty hard and it's pretty difficult. And the further we go down that rabbit hole, oftentimes the harder it is to say, okay, let me go back. It can be a lot easier, no matter how far you are in your sin, to say, God, help me where I am right now. Lift me up where I am right now. Okay, good. Yeah, he could do that. But the damage that we have done in our lives, God has to fix that. He has to rewire that. He has to change certain things. And so the further we go down sin, down the lane of sin, oftentimes the longer it's going to take for God to undo what we did. It doesn't mean that he can't grab you up out of that pit immediately. Oh, he definitely can. But there's some stuff that he's going to have to fix. He's going to have to change and fix broken relationships. He's going to have to remove people in our lives who are toxic, who are not there for good purposes. He's going to have to fix our finances and teach us how to be financial stewards over our money, right? He's going to have to fix the way we think and how we have allowed our brain to be wired in a negative way, in a pattern of sin. He's going to have to rewire that thing, right? And that's what I'm talking about. That's the thing that takes time. So trouble does follow those who chase after other gods. Be careful of the gods that you're chasing. Do you really want to stay stuck in this? I know it's difficult. I know it's hard. But it's harder when you live 10, 15, 20 years in the same place that you're at. Imagine that not getting better and you're there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. When you could make the decision today to say, God, I'm going to hold on to your hand. And I know that this may be difficult, but I know that it's for my good. And that the change that I do want, it'll come a lot quicker than me staying in this thing for the next 10, 20 years. So I encourage you with that. Ask yourself, what are you chasing after? What are you using to fill those voids that only God can fill? God gives you joy. God gives you peace. Everything else is a counterfeit. And we have to recognize that. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Victory is Greater Than the Struggle, an ex-lesbian podcast with myself, your host, Jessica Newsom. I will see you guys next time.